Here's the challenge. Sometimes we allow these 3 to 6 month projects to loom so big in our mind because we add up the months and we go, well, that's going to be August. That's going to be September. That's going to be October. Do I really want to spend the next 3 to 6 months working on that? But let me ask you this. What if you could just take the gloves off or put the gloves on, and in 3 days, that thing was just completely accomplished? How would that feel? What if it was kind of like back when you were in college and you had to prepare for a final and you had been lazy or procrastinated and you hadn't prepared for it? It was 3 days before the final. And that's all you did was study for 3 days and you got it done. Or maybe your boss called you and when you worked and your boss called you and he said, you know what, or she said, on Friday, we have a big presentation that we have to do. It's Tuesday and we have a big presentation on Friday and we didn't know. And so I'm sorry you didn't find out, but I need you to prepare the most amazing PowerPoint presentation of your life. Or I need you to prepare the biggest walkthrough of our factory of your life. With a show of hands, how many of you would rise to the challenge and get that job done in 3 days if somebody external had told you that it had to be done? Somebody you trusted. It was a professor, it was a coach, it was a boss, it was a judge. Okay. And I'm seeing all kinds of hands, right? This is just awesome. When we're running our own business, a lot of times we don't prioritize those things because there's no penalty associated with failure. Think about that. If we don't show up and pass that test, the penalty is we don't graduate. If we don't show up for our boss on Friday and do that presentation, the penalty is we may not get a raise. So there's an external penalty. In our own business, though, and I'm not suggesting that you add penalties, I just want you to understand the framework in our mind is that in our own business, there's usually no penalty. It allows us to become complacent. So I want you to imagine just for a moment that whatever it took for you, whether it's I'm going to run the marathon and win, I'm going to win the Olympics, or there's a penalty associated with it. Whatever it takes for you to say, I'm going to finish this thing in 3 days, no matter what would you have to do between now and then to finish that thing, to do that thing? What are the steps that are involved that need to happen to make that thing happen? And I want to encourage you today, after we get off the call, to make a list of those things and say, what could I do to make this a reality? Can I make this a reality? 3 days. I want to talk just a little bit about reverse engineering whatever it is that needs to be done. So often when we think about processes, we make a list and it starts with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's nothing wrong with that. The reason that we do that is because we think sequentially in time. If I do this first, if I do this second, if I do this third. If we take a course, it always starts with first, second, third, fourth, which again is fine. It's process. The challenge comes when we try to do impossible things, because possible things take 3 to 6 months and we jump through a number of hoops. Impossible things are done quickly, right? When God created the heavens and the earth, he did it quickly. When miracles occur, they occur quickly. When transformation occurs in your own life, it occurs quickly. When you realize that you're out of shape, I felt like I'm out of shape for years, but then something happens. I eat a meal that doesn't agree with me, or I get on the scale, or I take a stress test and a result comes back and it says, Sean, you're going into the red zone. Immediately, in a moment of transformation, I say, I have to start getting healthy. When a relationship, we know that we've been complacent, and then all of a sudden there's a biting argument that says, look, I feel like I'm in great pain and you've hurt me, and we're seeing the red flags. In that moment, we have a moment of transformation, right? When the accountant comes to us and says, look, you thought you're profitable last year, but the truth of the matter is you weren't. The money coming in isn't as much as the money going out, or something along those lines. That's a moment of transformation. When we have a moment of transformation, like when you look at this list of things that needs to be done to get all of this done in the next few days, if you proceed through this as a first step, second step, third step, you draw it all out, it can look like it's going to take 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. The problem with that is that a lot of times 3 to 6 months projects, if they're not urgent, and most of the time they're not, they never get done. How many of you feel like that? Like this big thing that you kind of signed up for in the back of your head to get done has been put on the back burner. Type back burner into the chat. If it's repeatedly been put on the back burner, it's really important to you, but it keeps getting shuffled off to the back burner. I want to change all that today. I want you to think now, instead of a first, second, third, and fourth, I want you to imagine that we're reverse engineering the result. I want you to imagine that 3 days from now, the lead magnet is complete. I want you to imagine that 3 days from now, you have the outline for your product. I want you to imagine that 3 days from now, you have the sales letter. I want you to imagine that 3 days from now, you have the affiliate program set up. 3 days from now, you have the interview tour, the speaking tour set up. Now, you may not be booked or anything yet, but all of these things are set up. Funnel system with a course, sales funnel for the new program, the first draft of a novel, writing a book on smiling meditation. I want you to simply imagine that that step is complete. If you laid everything aside for the next 3 days and all you focused on was writing that draft, all you focused on pulling the pieces together for that sales funnel, if all you did was make that funnel system, you're probably not going to record the whole course, but you were to put placeholders in for each lesson in your course, you were to outline it. If you had, maybe not the full launch of the new service, but you had the order form set up, you had a main page set up, and you had changed all of your profiles online to talk about that new service. If you had written the first couple chapters in the book and you had outlined the rest, if you threw away the steps and you just went with all abandon, like you did when you were in college, like you did with your first couple of jobs, and you didn't know what you were going to do, but you just went in and did it. How much of this thing could be done by the end of the week? Let's go logical for just a second. What percentage of it could be done by the end of the week? Maybe it's not 100%. Could it be 90%? Could it be 80%? Could it be 85%? I want you to allow yourself to be logical for just a moment. Then we're going to go back into the creative space. Whatever that number is for you, how would that feel? Would it feel good? Would it be freeing, liberating? So if you were to just lean in and do your project for the next 3 days, just 100% abandon, how much of that project would be done? Liberating to know that I could do it with laser focus. Okay, so for most of you, you're putting it at 85 or 90%. How easy would it be to just finish it off next week? Like, we're just going to admit that maybe it's not 100% this week, but how easy would it be to just finish it off? If all that's left is 10%, all that's left is 15%, all is left is one little naughty problem, how easy would it be to finish next week? Now, how does this feel knowing that this is something that's been on the back burner, that it's taken 3 to 6 months? Sometimes when I ask that question, people say, I've been dancing around for 5 years. How will it feel next week when it's just done? Like, it should feel like relief. It should be exciting, but it should also be relief. Very easy, liberating, exhilarating. There's a relief there. I want you to feel that relief. I want you to lean into that relief for a moment, because here's the thing. When you have that relief, that moment of relief, it frees you up to be even more productive and powerful on the next thing. You see, here's the thing. If you come and spend this week with me, we're on day 2 of 5. You spend this week with me and you accomplish something great this week, that's a win. But if you don't take that win and leverage it by being able to do this again and again and again, then honestly, I won't consider this a win. Because my goal with this week is to transform your thinking for the rest of your life, so that whenever you need a big thorny project done that's been on the back burner, that you can just lean into it, get it done, and experience that relief, just like you probably did with your first entrepreneurial venture, your first job, your first college experience. You just leaned in. I want